Hello, everyone. You're welcome to today's installment of the Birmingham Enterprise Community live chat series, where we get to talk about entrepreneurs and their industries, especially the topical issues in their industries, get to examine their journey as part of that as well. And it is yet another edition today. This is brought to you by Birmingham Enterprise Community, which is an amazing community of entrepreneurs and business leaders across Birmingham, the West Midlands area, the whole of the United Kingdom. And we've even got entrepreneurs within our community that are outside the United Kingdom, all across the world. So if you're just joining us, you're welcome. Yes, you're just joining us, of course, because we just started, right? If you join us on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, Instagram, wherever it is that you're joining us from, you are welcome. It's the Birmingham Enterprise Community live chat series. And today we are going to be having a conversation about the local high street, right? The local retail sector, the high street, people with shops and things of that nature. It used to be a staple in our daily lives and our daily shopping experiences. But thanks to things like technology, the rise of large organizations like Amazon, COVID-19, and things of that nature, there's been some very interesting things happening when it comes to high street. And those are some of the conversations that we hope to have today. And we've got an entrepreneur that is very grounded and rooted in the industry. In fact, his organization is one that plays in that particular space and one that is actually looking to give the power back to the local high street, right? So the conversation we're going to be having today, we're going to be kicking it off with, are we actually killing the high street? And then once we examine those problems, we're going to have a conversation about the solutions. If you have any questions at all, at any point of the conversation, feel free to drop it in the comment section, whether you're watching this on YouTube, on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, wherever it is that you're watching this from. Ensure that you keep your comment section, your questions into the comment section. And if you'd like to find out more about what we do at Birmingham Enterprise Community, you can simply go to birminghamenterprisecommunity.co.uk. That is birminghamenterprisecommunity.co.uk. So without further ado, to dive into his entrepreneurial journey and also conversations around the local high street. Our guest today on the show is none other than Dan Hadden. So Dan, you are welcome. I am super duper excited to have you today, and thank you for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Davis. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Absolutely. We're going to have a great conversation. But before we get into any of the hardcore stuff, any of the core conversations around retail and things about that, tell us about yourself, right? About yourself, your business primarily. Give us a little bit of background as to what your business does primarily.
Yeah, sure. So basically our mission is to bring sort of local enterprise back to life in terms of local sellers, whether that be local stores, local online sellers, and provide an immediate delivery option for them. Because at the moment, the way we sort of looked at it was, how does anybody compete against the likes of Amazon? They're fast, they've got everything. So for us, we need to almost allow local sellers to fight back.
Fantastic. And it's quite interesting the way you put it. You need to empower local sellers to fight back. That's quite interesting. We're going to get to that conversation. But I think the first layer of curiosity that I have is, out of all the problems in the world, why this? What motivated you to get into this space? So I think the best way to approach that would be, tell us about your entrepreneurial journey. How did you even figure out that you wanted to start a business? How did this whole thing start for you? And why? How did that cascade into being in the space where you're trying to give, the local economy the power to fight back and things of that nature? So tell us that story and help us understand why.
That's a good question. So for me, I guess I've always personally wanted the challenge. I hate being in a comfort zone. So from my point of view, I want to always stretch as far as I can go. And so the idea for me of working a 9 to 5 sort of job it just didn't appeal. I like that freedom where, you know, it's very task driven. I can complete something and I can look back and say, you know, I've done that. That's really good, and then move on, because that's the point. I don't like being comfortable for too long, and so that's what's probably led me down the entrepreneurial route. Now, I started my first business at 21, and was a massive learning curve for me. Massive learning curve. Um, I kind of call it like my university degree in the startup world, where it was hands on. I learned everything, not everything, but I learned a lot of what not to do in a business, especially the startup world. It's completely different to sort of going from working a normal business and that. So that's, you know, bringing it to what's kind of made me want to empower the high street and the local retailers, stuff like that. I mean, I used to work in retail. I could see the high street was slowly dying. I guess what I liked, or I didn't like the idea of, was that there's a lot of people out there who are keen to sort of be entrepreneurial. They're keen to have shops, and a lot of older people, or, you know, the older generation who own shops, you know, they didn't sign up to this internet world. How do they compete in this sort of e-commerce industry? Because setting up a website isn't enough. You can't just put your products online and say, "Oh, I'm online." I mean, why are people going to buy from you? And so, I guess also with that is, you know, we can, from Curb's advantage, we can use local stores, local sellers to our advantage, because we can provide our service really quick. We can support the local community. We can, you know, encourage sellers who are looking to set up a business and test their product to come onto our platform and say, hey, like, let's see how it does locally. You know, 30 years ago, before the internet, you had a local market, didn't you? And that local customer base, when you set up your shop, they'd come through, you know, every Saturday or the weekend, whatever. That was all they did. It wasn't, you know, go online, come across like everything. There was no ASOS, there was no Amazon. It was all before that. So it's just trying to create a platform where people can compete and grow. And do you know what I mean?
Interesting. Interesting. And it's interesting that you say that, because again, at least over the past 2 years, there's been this growing, awareness socially about the need to support small businesses and things of that nature. Like, and I think that what you guys are doing is smack on right in the middle. But first of all, let's talk about the real problem, right? On the one hand, you've got, like you rightly said, technology is driving massive changes, and not just in terms of the options that are available. So like you were rightly saying, back in the days we had just the high street, but now there's the high street. There's all the vendors on Instagram and on YouTube and on everywhere online that they are, Etsy, eBay, everywhere. And then you've got the Amazon, the big giant crazy one in the industry. So all of that is there. At the same time, it has also changed consumer behavior, right? Consumers now, the way we buy things is completely changed, right? The way our experience with shopping is completely changed. And so all of this seem to have, from what I hear you say, had some very significant impact, especially on the local economy, in terms of businesses that do not have that natural capacity, or they're not digital natives, as we like to call them. Businesses that have been that were inexistent even before technology became mainstream. So talk us through that problem. What are the biggest things that you think, both for everyone watching, need to be mindful of? Because for us as consumers, we're just buying and we're just moving, right? We're not thinking about the ripple effect of the decisions that we take, because again, we're just buying stuff, right? But tell us about that effect and how it's killing the local economy.
Yeah, sure. Again, good question. I mean, I'm trying to think the sort of best way to answer. With with the sort of local, or okay, let's go to us as consumers, right? Us as consumers, yeah, you're right. We want to buy things fast. We want to see everything. We want it at the right price, and we want it at the most convenient, or in the most convenient way that we can sort of get it, right? Because we're busy now. Everybody's busy now, aren't they? Everybody doesn't have time to go to the shops. They just that's the real issue, is that we've become so used to this. So the knock-on effect right now is that, yeah, the stores are going to suffer. The local economy is going to suffer, because you're feeding into this sort of corporate machine, aren't you? But none of this money is getting pumped back into the local economy. People who would normally set up stores, who, like we've said, aren't setting up stores, even if they're setting up, local online businesses. Just because you're in the big wide world of the internet, it doesn't mean that you have a customer base. Just you have, it's kind of like you've got loads more people to sell to, but who are you selling to? Just because you've got more people to sell to, that you could argue that customer, you could have 1 million customers compared to a town of 30,000, small town that is 30,000, but that 30,000 concentrated people would be a much more focused customer base, and probably more likely to buy, because of the local scale, if you give them the right opportunity to do so, educate. So that's probably the first problem. But I think from a high street point of view, yeah, they're not going to set up stores anymore. People don't want to take the risk of opening up a brick and mortar store. But who now? I mean, this is the way I look at it: is who in your right mind would just open up a shop? You need to test it first, right? You can't just risk opening up a shop. It's a completely old school way of doing things. You're throwing money at the wall. It's a very, very dangerous way of doing things. And that's probably going to be one of the biggest problems for the high street, is a lot, even the chains are sort of going. But as people are looking at that, I think you'd be very, very, very risky to just open up a shop and hope for the best without knowing your market spot on. Now, when we sort of say about, okay, how do we save the high street? The way that we've been looking at it is, okay, what now does the high street represent? Right? The high street isn't what it was. And because of the way our generation of consumers are going, how is that high street ever in reality going to come back? Shopping centres, yes, different. That's different. You would still go to like a shopping centre to browse and do your shopping stuff. But the local high street, I personally don't see how that makes a recovery as things are going. Not right now. Things obviously have to change. So you almost have to like rethink and reshape the high street and what the high street means. And does the high street go beyond your sort of physical, where the butchers are, and all of these sort of small businesses that we all need, and then sort of trying to expand it into people who are not, or who are going to test their market online. They're going to open their business online because it's less risky for them. And that is then becoming what we're sort of saying, like your high street 2.0. It's incorporating the digital world with the physical world, because then the local consumer who wants to buy, they want to, it's all convenience, right? They want things fast. They've got access to the new high street, which is that kind of hybrid model.
Fantastic. Now it's quite interesting because again, that was going to be my next question. The question around how you guys are solving this, but you've already touched on that in a very significant way, because even I didn't think about it. In the way you've just explained it, about how the local high street traditionally had a captive audience. But then with the whole thing with the internet, from the business perspective, the audience is not captive. But then bringing it as well to bridging the gap and bringing together the best of both worlds, for me, it's truly, truly remarkable. So, we've already got into the territory. That is the solution that you guys are bringing to the table. So in terms of, from a product standpoint, if I'm brick and mortar store owner, right? And I am not a digital native, like we like to say. And but then I want to take advantage of this solution in terms of getting the capabilities that technology affords me to be able to deliver and meet the demands of today's customers. Just like you rightly said, today's customers, we want it fast, we want it now, and all of that. So if I am one of those people and I want to get that competency, you told me that that's a solution you guys provide. So tell what exactly, tell us about your product, essentially, is the question I'm asking. So how does it come across? How do I interact with it? Because again, one thing I am skeptical about, right, is I am not a digital native. So I don't want to use a solution that is technical for me, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
tell us about your product and how it really, really works.
So as we're developing at the moment, we're nearly sort of at the final stages of what is going to be our first release. I guess from a physical standpoint, from the stores, the brick and mortars, yeah, it's about making it as easy and seamless as possible. And that is with any website. It's quite tricky. It's quite tricky to if you don't know websites and you don't know e-commerce stores or anything like that, it takes some getting used to. But there's both sides to that as well. Is as a store owner, you've got to be, if you want to improve the business and you want to grow and compete, like they also have to push their side as well to learn the system. But we've made it as simple as possible in terms of adding products. We're trying to make it that as easy as possible. Alerts is nice and simple. The app, the web app at the moment is just going to alert to them so they know what the order is, what the product, what the customer wants. It's linked up to couriers because what we're trying to do is use the gig economy. So we're going into areas where the gig economy already exists, and that's how the slogan "speed of a takeaway" is what we're trying to achieve with everything. So a brick and mortar store as well is for us. It's how do we make, away from the digital world, how do we make it as seamless as possible from receiving an order to the courier coming, for example. It just needs to be a sort of like a series of simple steps, I guess. Now, one of their worries would straight away be, well, what do we do with packaging? How does that work? Well, you hand it over to a customer like you would hand over to a normal customer, and that's how we one of the ways we're trying to sort of make it as seamless as possible. As little friction as possible for not just the physical stores, the online stores, everybody. We need it as seamless as possible. And we're very, very excuse me, we're very hot on product led growth. We just want to test and learn, and that's what we've done so far with our beta series that we've been running and everything so far. We just want to try something out, speak to you. If you're a store owner, we want to speak to you and we want to learn, what do you think? And that's the way that we're going to grow, and we're going to grow together. That's the best way that's the way we're going to create a good product that fits all parties, right? It's
Absolutely.
just by talking to all different sides of it. So yeah, that will be the long solution for us. We're going to work with one thing, and then we're going to just implement the different changes along the way.
Absolutely, that's super critical. I mean, in the world of business, one of the cardinal truths that has always been there and stood the test of time is the fact that when you speak to customers and you actually interact with them, you listen to them, then you have a much higher chance of ensuring that you get to the market with a product that is fit for the market and a product that's gonna do really well on the market. So absolutely the right move to make. Which is why I then want to ask you. We've talked about the high street side of things. What do you think there are any particular changes that we need to begin to make just generally as a populace of consumers, right? Because just like you rightly said, if we're not mindful about the way we purchase and do all of those things online, we're going to be empowering businesses that have already been empowered, right? And not, essentially killing the local economy. What do I need to do? I mean, now that you've talked about this, I, as a regular consumer, I'm now aware that, okay, so there's something going on here that I have not been paying attention to. What is my role in that? Because we have a lot of people here, they might not be high street people, but we all buy stuff online, right? What do we need to do as individuals? What kind of mind shifts do we need to begin to make? What are kind of things do we need to begin to think about, every time we're making this purchase in order to ensure that we do not kill the local economy where we live, pretty much?
Yeah, good question. I think I'll sort of go about answering that. I guess, yeah, there's a lot being said about at the moment, sort of conscious buying, isn't there? And people just need to think a little bit more. Where is everything coming from? Even going down to thinking about what are you eating, and there's a lot of that kind of thing with the high street. I mean, look, if you don't use it or you don't shop locally, it's going to go. Simple as that. Because it comes back to what I was saying earlier, is that as this generation moves forward, they're not going to just open stores like they would have done 30 years ago, right?
Absolutely.
If you go back, I mean, I don't know if you're the same, but a lot of people, I imagine, if they speak to their parents, they used to name the local shop owners what it is now. Nowadays, I guess as well is with sort of encouraging local enterprise. You're getting new products. You're getting sort of people thinking of more visionary things. Progress, I guess. If you're just going to feed into these power corporations, these big companies who are almost, they're telling you what to buy. They're, in a way, they're presenting it to you, but that's them telling you what you're going to buy. They're setting what the trends are going to be. No local sort of area has its own what's the word, sort of like identity. Everywhere's the same, right? There's no local identity. So as a shopper, I think you just it's got to be, again, it's got to be both sides. We've got to make it, as the sort of platforms, we need to make it easy for consumers to make these conscious changes, to say, okay, right, I'll try local first, right? It's got to be easier for them, because it's like, I guess, in any business, if you're trying to get your customer to jump hurdles to do something, they're not going to do it, because you're always going to take the easiest route.
Absolutely.
So do you know what I mean? So you've got to give them the best opportunity, and just say, hey, like, don't do that, why don't you try this? It's just as easy. In fact, actually, it's going to be easier, because we're going to make it easier for you.
Interesting. So spot on, mate. So there's been a number of comments coming in, and I'm just gonna look through and reference a couple of them. So, somebody from LinkedIn has said there are a lot of players working within this space, but not focused around delivery of food, that is Uber Eats and the rest of them. Is this a problem for you guys, or is it actually proof of how the model works? So there are a lot of people in this space with different focuses. So what does that mean for you guys? Is it a proof that it works, or do you guys see it as competition or things of that nature?
Do you know, I look at it in a positive light, because the gig economy now exists, which is perfect for us, because we can just tap into it. So we're not trying to necessarily reinvent the wheel. We're just trying to sort of alter something, I guess, would be the way to do it. There's a lot of money and a lot of focus is going into this food, and now you would have noticed, is now going into groceries. I mean, you can't go on social media without somebody advertising to deliver your groceries in 15 minutes. And I guess for us, it's proof that actually this is what the consumer wants. They want everything in one easy place. and they want it fast. It's convenience. I mean, I've been saying this for years now. Like, we live in a convenience society. Like, you need to feed into that convenience.
Interesting. So we live in a convenient society and we need to fit into that convenience mentality. I think that that's really powerful because again, it just shows that when you understand what the environment wants, what the customers want, what people want, then it's easier for you to sort of like serve them and ensure that you have solutions that are really, really applicable to people. Another one from LinkedIn. If we continue to buy through online channels, even for local stores, what do you think will be the role of physical stores in the future? Is it still needed or could it become completely redundant? So you got the
Good
question.
question. Yeah, it's a good question.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I haven't got my crystal ball on me. It, I think how's the best way to put this? Yeah, if we continue to buy food, yeah. I mean, look, there's gonna be places where you need to have local stores. There's always going to be a demand for people to go out. I hope people are always going to want to leave their houses. Otherwise, I don't really look forward to the future if everybody wants to just stay inside. So I guess,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's that bit. Is that bit about
Got
shopping
me.
being an experience?
Yeah, because people, there's different things that or different reasons why people go shopping. And we like we say, we've tried to kind of like say, hey, you've got the best of both worlds. Like, you can have it right now, pretty much. Like, we'll deliver under an hour. That's what we're saying. But yeah, when you're saying so, like, okay, you're buying from local stores with online channels. Yes, I guess you could look at it in a way and say, well, if if they won't need a physical store anymore because so much business is going to come through that. But there's still going to be a demand for people to just go in and go into a shop. People still go
Mm,
shopping. When we were doing our, we've done a series of betas, just sort of like delivering from town, and town was absolutely manic the other day, which surprised me. But the people are still going shopping. People,
absolutely.
there's a demand. So no, I don't think stores or the local high street, for example, will become totally redundant. I just think, like I say, we need to rethink what the high street now is, or what it stands for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I personally agree with you because I think, like many things, right, it's going to coexist. We're going to keep having high street and then we're going to keep having online. And it's just the same thing with majority of the things that we think technology is just going to wipe away. Oftentimes, it doesn't wipe it away. It coexists with it. Look at what is happening in banking, for example. Fintech coming on board over the last 10 years. People say this is going to kill banks and stuff. But now banks are learning to coexist with fintech and then they're collaborating to ensure that the experience for the customers and the users is much richer. And I think that that's what's going to happen moving forward. And another LinkedIn user has asked a question around, where do you see the business in 5 years? But I'm just going to rephrase that a bit and add to it because I know that you guys are just about to launch, right? And so my question would be, when is that launch day? When should we expect to be able to access Curbb? That's number one. And then layer on top of that, where do you think the business is going to go once it launches over the next few years?
Yeah, sure. So we're looking to get a form of the launch out around sort of October time. That's our aim. Then, we'll launch in sort of one area, quite local to where I am in the southeast. We'll launch in one area and then we'll start to just expand and expand. Now, in terms of where we want to be in 5 years, I mean, the ideal goal is for people to, like, people at the moment will be like, oh, I'll just check Amazon. We'd love for them to just be like, I'll just check Curbb. I'll check my app. We've got the app released, and people just say, I'll check Curbb because they know that it's going to be there like quicker than anywhere else. That's where we want to be. We've got an aggressive expansion plan, but look, like I said earlier, the 5 years, we've all got visions as sort of startup owners of where we want to be in 5 years, but the first two are the most key years. Like, we've just got to build a great product that people love, and that's why I keep saying about the product led growth. Like, we just got to build something and keep altering that product to make sure that people love it. Simple as that. If everybody loves it, then the sky is the limit. Yeah,
absolutely. I totally agree with you, man. Totally agree with you on that, because 5 years is a long time, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you're running a business, which is the reason why at this point I wanna take a break from high street and all of that for a minute and go back, because there are a lot of people that are watching this, that are entrepreneurs, that have seen you start your own business, and then you have these opportunities that you have, and you're getting started really soon. So there are a lot of people that are watching this that want to start their own business as well. I haven't quite figured it out yet. So let me take you back to something that you mentioned earlier. You talked about the fact that you ran your first business. You started your first business when you were 21, and then you ran it for 4 years, and you called it like it was your university, your entrepreneurial university. And what I take away from that is that there was a lot of learning for you in that first business. Tell us about some of the most important and critical things that you learned in that first business that is informing the entrepreneur that you are today.
Yeah, sure. First of all, test is the most important thing you can possibly do. Testing in its I think you've got to look at when you're creating a business model, you need to look at it in its most simplest form. Now, from what I would say with my first business, it was a case of, I know what my customer wants, so I'm going to build it, right? Not, okay, what's the easiest route I can get to market? That's number one. What's the first thing I can do that's going to prove that the business exists? Which is why with Curbb, we straight away just went, right, let's test it. Let's see what people think. Like, I can do something really simple here. I don't need a platform. Platform would be great, but it costs thousands and thousands of pounds to do. So that would probably be my first thing that I would say is testing. The other thing is being really liquid with the learning curve. Just because your original vision, right? Your original vision doesn't always stick, and you need to almost not have an ego to a point and say, okay, well, that doesn't work. I am prepared to pivot here, right? We've done it with Curbb. We've had to pivot, and it's, for us, pivoting now is just a normal thing. It doesn't matter, but it's just where you adapt. You have to be prepared to adapt, and just listen to the market is probably the number one thing. If somebody's saying something to you, listen, because they're a potential customer, potential user, or whatever they are. Like, listen to what they're saying. You can't just go, oh yeah, they don't understand, because if they don't understand, who's to say that everybody else doesn't understand? If you're if you as the business owner are the only person who understands your business, well, good luck. Do you know what I mean? You've got you
don't have a business.
Exactly that, and you can't spend your whole career educating everybody on why your business is the way forward. You've got to develop something great, and so yeah, I guess as well is one of the, I'm trying to think, the sort of things that I learned with that is, just testing, smallest scale possible, adapt, listen.
Those are really important things you've talked about, because I mean, testing, a lot of entrepreneurs today, even myself, I still find myself having to hold myself back and say, wait a minute, test, right?
Absolutely.
We get this rush of energy every time a new idea comes into our heads, or every time entrepreneurship is all about, people talk about, you have to be super passionate, you have to be driven, and all of this. And maybe it's the passion, maybe it's the drive, but we just want to go, 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 go. And I think that what you talked about in terms of testing and listening, those are key things that you emphasized. Taking your ego and just suppressing it and listening to what people have to say. Because, like you rightly said, if they don't understand it, if you think what everybody's saying is rubbish, then it probably means that you are going to be your consumer. You're going to be your customer.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the issue is, yeah, you've got to listen, you've got to adapt. As simple as that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have to listen. We have to, and I like that point as well about being flexible, because, sometimes you get into the process, you have this idea at the beginning, but then you find very quickly as you begin to test, again, emphasis on testing, you find very quickly that the direction you had in mind is probably not the way to go. And you would need
Exactly.
that flexibility to pivot and change. And I think that that is really, really important. And the first business you talked about, do you still run it?
No.
Tell us
It's a
about
bit,
letting go.
find something better to do with a bigger market opportunity is the is the easiest way to let go of something. Do you know?
I like that.
I guess it got to a point where you go, am I enjoying this anymore? And I think
Mhm.
a lot of people say if you're not enjoying yourself for too many days in a row, and the idea of doing something like making a phone call, whatever, is causing like a dread, well, that's not why you went into it. And you need to always remember why you went into this business,
Mhm.
and that's comes from understanding yourself and understanding what you want out of your life. And if you want the freedom and you the flexibility, and you want to work on your terms and all of that, like what's the point if you hate your job, you hate your life? And I think another thing, like just touching on one of the main things to sort of take from it, is you need to, as everybody's like, oh, set these massive goals. Absolutely, set massive goals. I'm all for that. If you're trying to envision something big, and be creative, you need to see where it's going to be in the future, right? But you also need to have realistic expectations of where you are at each stage. And,
Mm.
this is where, in my opinion, things like social media can be really poisonous. Is that, you know, you go on social media and, they'll be like, oh, you business goal, make 1 million in a year. I made 1 million in a year. And all it doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work.
99.99% of the time, it doesn't work like that. Just because your business isn't working in this direction doesn't mean that that direction isn't going to work. Or perhaps actually your business is working, but because of the funds that you've got behind you, for example, aren't allowing you to grow at the same rate as what you expected. Like, there's so many different like variables involved that you need to sort of keep in your mind and understand. And that's why if you have a solid business plan in place and you know exactly where you want to go, you've just got to trust the process. And that's what I tell myself every day, is trust the process. Because as an entrepreneur, I think you're gonna have so many days where you're gonna say to yourself, do you know what, I don't see how this is gonna work. Like, but
Mhm.
you have to remind yourself that actually I started this for a reason, and this was going to work the other day when I was doing it. So why is it not going to work now? You need to get that sort of voice of doubt out your head and try and squash it as much as possible. And that's
Absolutely.
that's how you grow as in general, but that's how you're going to grow as an entrepreneur and achieve what you want to achieve.
Absolutely. Fantastic advice, Dan. Thank you so much. I think that that has been really, really insightful for a lot of people that are watching, because oftentimes we get carried away. Oftentimes we fall out of love of certain things because, again, when it's not working, it's not working. And
Yeah,
sometimes it's not working because it's not going to work. And I think for a lot of us entrepreneurs, a lot is said about persistence, but one of the things that we also have to be mindful of is ensure that you're persistent on the right thing, right? There's no
absolutely.
point continuing to climb a ladder that is leaning against the wrong wall. And I think that that's something that a lot of entrepreneurs need to to be super mindful of. Now,
I like
very
that.
quickly,
Yeah.
because we're running out of time. Time flies when you're having fun. So I'm probably gonna pop in this question that we have on the screen, and then I'll take a last question, which I'm gonna ask you about support and Beck and things of that nature. So, somebody from this is Lee. Lee Trowbridge just said, trust the business plan and be adaptable along the way. Again, just echoing what it is that you talked about. But I wanted to ask you as well,
Absolutely. Yeah.
because I know that you're right now on the Proving Ground program at Birmingham Enterprise Community. How has that helped you and the development of your business? And talk, if you can, as well about the role of support and having a community and things of that nature.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of my sort of key things is that you've got to learn from people who have more experience than you. So like
Mm,
always be the student, don't try and always be the teacher, right? Now, what the Birmingham Enterprise community has allowed us to do is access people who have experience in areas that we don't have it. Now,
mm,
you know, there's some of the people who you guys have got on there as mentors. I mean, they have so much experience, and their CVs are absolutely incredible, and they give us the opportunity to have chats with them. I've had conversations with people who it'd probably take me 3-4 years of pestering them on LinkedIn or something to even get a conversation with them. They don't talk to you, but you guys have the connection, which is amazing. The other side of it is that the support along the way is you're a message away, which is great. I can bounce all of my ideas off of you guys, which has been really, really helpful. You set whatever period of time you're going for, you set your goals and you work towards your goals. Now, setting goals for yourself is good, but setting goals where somebody else is tracking those goals alongside you kind of gives you that extra desire, that extra boost, right?
absolutely.
Do you see what you know what I mean? I'm trying to. So I think being in an incubator with my last business would have changed everything. Having this level of support has been fantastic. And if you are an entrepreneur and you guys don't, it's not just Proving Ground, is it? You have the startup the
Yeah, the
startup
startup
stream where you
sprint. Yeah,
obviously you've got other programs. I couldn't recommend it more. And just because it says Birmingham, you don't have to be in Birmingham. We've been to Birmingham once, so in the 6 months that we've been a part of it, so you don't have to be in Birmingham. But from my point of view,
absolutely.
to have support with real business people who want you to succeed, it makes a huge difference. It really does.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you, Mo. I mean, we've got the startup sprint, we've got the Ford Accelerator, we've got the Proving Ground program, and just like you rightly said, you don't. For those of you that are watching, if you want to be a part of any of the things that we do at Beck, you do not necessarily have to be physically in Birmingham. We have entrepreneurs within the community that are in South America, in Africa, in the US, across Europe, even in Asia. So we've got people from all around the world as members of the community, and also our mentor pool is also joined from all across the world. And just like Dan rightly said, we've got some really incredibly amazing mentors, people that's got tons and tons of experiences across multiple sectors, multiple industries, multiple business functions, people that have run businesses themselves. And that's one of the unique things about the support that we provide our Birmingham Enterprise community. It's very mentorship heavy, very coaching heavy, and then you get the right business insights that you need part-time. Just like Dan said, we're a message away. So if you like to be a part of any of our programs at Birmingham Enterprise Community, all you simply have to do is go to birminghaменterprisecommunity.co.uk, and then you find a list of all of the programs that we offer, and then you can sign up for any one of them that you will like to be a part of, depending on the stage of the business that you are at. We're sector agnostic, we're industry agnostic. So if you like to, regardless of what sector you're in or what industry you're in or what stage your business is in, there's something for you at Beck. So go to birminghaменterprisecommunity.co.uk and check out all the support that we offer. Lastly, Dan, because we've overrun the time right now. So lastly, if there are people that are watching this that are entrepreneurs that want to start their own business, what are the top 3 things you're going to tell them to be mindful of? I know you shared a lot already, and we've taken notes of that, but you can take the opportunity to emphasize that if you want. But if there are 3 pieces of advice that you would like to pass on to people that are just about to start their very first business or even their second business, what would it be?
Always keep learning, probably would be number 1. Read as part of that. Read books, study. Like, you know, you've got to keep learning because there's so much knowledge out there, right? Remove the ego or squash it as much as you possibly can before you start, and you know, set expectations is another one alongside. But I guess know what you're in for, and that will come alongside the expectations. Understand what you want to achieve, because it's going to take, you've got to be obsessed for it to be successful. Like you have got to have this like obsession with your company, depending where you want it to get to. Of course, like if it's a side hustle, you know, you can afford to not be quite so obsessed with it. But if you're, depending what your goals are, you know what you're in for, but just have fun. Like, know why you're doing it. If you're doing it to have fun, just keep reminding yourself of why you're doing it.
Absolutely.
And if you're not having fun, doesn't mean that, you know, business or entrepreneurialism isn't for you. It might just be that a different business idea is for you. But don't be too proud to say, actually, no, this one didn't work. That's part and parcel of it, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's a part of the process, and those are really great pieces of advice. Dan, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the advice, for your time, for sharing your experiences with us, and also for helping us shed light as to how we can begin to make a dent in the space, especially with regards to ensuring that local businesses have a say, they have a voice, they don't die off on us, they remain thriving and successful part of the local economy. So for those of us that are huge fans of Curbb already, and we want to sort of like keep track of what you guys are doing, what's the best way to get in touch?
At the moment is going to be via our Instagram channel until
awesome. What's your Instagram handle?
It's at Curbb, CURBB, and then UK. So Curbb UK.
At Curbb UK, guys, you just heard it from the man himself. If you'd like to find out about what they're doing, just go to Instagram and search for Curbb UK, CURBB UK. That'll be it from me today. And Dan, thanks a lot for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me, David. It's been great.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to everyone that has joined us today from LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, thank you very, very much. We're very grateful for the time that you spent with us today, and we really do hope that you've learned a thing or two. If you'd like to find out more about Curbb, go to Instagram and search for Curbb, CURBB UK. And then if you'd like to find out more about Birmingham Enterprise Community, just go to birminghaменterprisecommunity.co.uk. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop the questions to me or on the Beck website or anything at all that you think we could help you with. We are right here. Our job is to support entrepreneurs across the world. We're based in the Midland. So if there's anything at all that you think we can help with, feel free to give us a shout. Thank you very much, Dan, for coming on the show.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Take care of yourself. Bye now.
Cheers, everyone. Bye.